Hey, how's it going everybody? My name is Drew Creal, and in this video, I'm going to show you my pedal board that I've been using for all of 2021. Essentially, I wanted to build a bigger pedal board again. For the last year or so, I've just been using the Line 6 HX Stomp, and then the Magicstomp, and like a volume pedal, okay? And this was all on like a tiny little pedal board. And it pretty much does everything that I needed it to. It was, I had my amp sounds in the HX Stomp, and then a couple effects that I could turn on and off. But what I found to be a little bit frustrating is that I couldn't change any of the presets. So it was difficult to go from one preset to the next. For those of you that are Line 6 users, you'll know that when you go between presets and you have effects, it'll actually stop your effects, and there's sort of like a little glitch. There's a hiccup in between each preset. So I wanted to build something that would allow a nice seamless bleed, a nice seamless transition between presets. So one of the things that I started researching was different controller pedals, and I first ended up with the Morningstar stuff. I got, I think, an MC6, and although I like the size of that pedal, I like the footprint, I found it very difficult to program, and so I ended up getting rid of it. And so I ended up working with this company called XSonic, and they have this pedal called the Airstep and the Airstep Light. And so I sort of built a pedal board around their switching system. And I really like the form factor and the size of the Airstep line. I think it's the best switching device on the market right now. So for the pedal platform, I ended up with a Pedal Train Classic Pro. I would call it like maybe their second or third largest board. For a long time, I had their big board, the biggest board that they made, and I had a Helix, I had Lone Wolf stuff on it. It was the most insane board ever. But I ended up kind of moving towards the HX Stomp stuff, because if I ever have a gig where I need less stuff, I can just pull one of these off and put it on a smaller board that can fit into like a backpack. So here's the board. We're using the Pedal Train Classic Pro. I'll just kind of start going through different things and tell you a little bit about my my board and my decision making and all of that kind of stuff. So as I mentioned before, the HX Stomp is the sort of centerpiece of this board, and what I've got here is one HX Stomp that I use for all of the everything that has to do with amp sounds and tones. So the compressor, the noise gates, anything that has to do with the tone. Okay, that's coming from this, and occasionally I'll use a pitch shifter or some delays or reverbs on this one. But this one over here, basically by having this, it frees up an entire second HX Stomp to be dedicated to effects, okay? And so this is just my different effects that I use over here. So delays, reverb, and then I'll also occasionally throw in an effects loop. Over here, running through the effects loop is the Yamaha Magicstomp, which has some very special sounds in it. It's got my favorite chorus sounds, it's got some of my favorite delay sounds, and some ambient stuff. And this is an amazing pedal. Like it's probably my favorite pedal on this board. So yeah, so basically I've got my HM2 style pedal from Lone Wolf Audio. This is the Left Hand Wrath Deluxe, and that's running through the effects loop of this one. Okay, and that is how I get my chainsaw tone, or occasionally I'll switch it out with a different one. Like I'll run the Necronomicon or the Dominator from Lone Wolf in this spot, but right now I'm using the Left Hand Wrath. So so that's in the effects loop there. And then in the effects loop of my HX Stomp for effects like delay and stuff is the Yamaha Magicstomp. And you can see that those are going through over here. All right, so what I'm going to do now is take you through the basic signal flow of my board. So right here, I've got the Line 6 G10 wireless transmitter. I really enjoy being wireless. It's just it's helpful if I have to move around the room and change something on the soundboard. If I have to turn a camera on and off, it's really convenient to have wireless for the type of stuff that I do. I do a lot of video production, and it's nice to be able to have a guitar on you and be able to move around the room. So that's why I have that. This is the older Line 6 wireless system. They have a new one that I think charges with a traditional AC, like basically a traditional 9-volt power supply plug-in. But for some odd reason, Line 6 decided to use this USB one. So what I have here is this USB that I have rigged up to like an old Apple charger. I've got a household power cord coming off of the courtesy outlet of my power supply. I think I've got the VooDoo Lab Mondo. That's what I'm using for power. Okay, so if this thing ever goes down, which it does, I've had people step on this wonky USB charger. If that ever goes down, I just plug straight into my tuner pedal right here, and it works the same. So it goes from the tuner pedal then into the volume pedal, which I use for just convenience and also for swell effects. Okay, so then it comes out of there and it goes, my signal goes into the first Line 6 HX Stomp. Okay, and this HX Stomp right here is strictly dedicated to all of the preamp signal, basically. So I've got the compressors, the noise gates, the amp tone, the speaker cabinet simulation. All of that stuff is right here. Okay, and I think in this particular pedal or this particular patch, I've got a compressor, noise gate, and then I've got in the effects loop here, I've got this Lone Wolf Audio left-hand Wrath. That's going into the effects loop of the HX Stomp. And then after that, another noise gate. And then in this particular patch, I'm using the PV Panama, which is Line 6 version of the 5150. And then I've got my speaker cabinet simulation, and then I've got a couple delay and reverb effects here that I typically don't use. Okay, so after my signal goes in here, it comes out in stereo from here into the HX Stomp in stereo. Okay, and this HX Stomp I use for delay, reverb, any kind of time-based effect. Occasionally I'll put a chorus on here, but that's what this HX Stomp is used for. Okay, and in the effects loop of this one, I've got a Yamaha Magicstomp, and this is like my favorite effects pedal. There's a lot of nostalgia and a lot of emotion, I guess, that I associate with this pedal because Alan Holdsworth used a bunch of these in the kind of the last few years of his life. This was his rig. He had I think he ran like 4 or 6 of these at a time. And so I've just got one in my rig here. And then essentially from this HX Stomp, I've got 2 stereo outs. So I've got a red for right and a yellow for left. Okay, so one of the most exciting things about this pedal board is the switching system that I'm using. I'm using the Airstep Light and Airstep from XSonic. And this is a pedal that I originally sort of got into because I use the Airstep Lite to control my practice amp, which is the Yamaha THR. I've got a bunch of videos about that. But I wanted to get the original Airstep that has MIDI out, basically MIDI in and out. It's got foot switch controls. It basically has all of the hardware. This is just like a wireless Bluetooth one. So what I'm using the Airstep for is to control my presets. You can see how I'm changing them right now. I'm using that to control my presets on the first HX Stomp. Okay, and I even previously I MIDI'd the two HX Stomps together, and I could change both patches at a time. But what I found is that I wanted to have like when I change a preset over here from like clean to dirty, that the delays sort of, there's a nice spillover effect when I'm changing between presets over here. And when I had them linked together, there was like that same glitchy sound when you're transitioning from patch to patch. So I just leave this one not MIDI control, but here's the wire sticking out right there. So basically this is a preset changer. You can also control snapshots with the Airstep Lite, and that's what I have that set up to do. I'm not really using a ton of snapshots right now, so this is like down and up, and then this, I forget what this does, and then this is like a snapshot control if I want to turn on and off like different effects and different pedals within this one. That's what that does. Now, why do I have an Airstep Lite? Well, if I wanted to, I can mirror this Airstep right here. So I can Bluetooth connect this Airstep Lite to this Airstep, and then I can leave my pedals at the back of the stage. Like, let's say there's a lot of stage diving or something like that. There's a lot of activity on stage. If that is the case, I can leave this whole entire pedal board in the back of the stage, and I can control it all with the Airstep Lite. So that's the purpose of that, okay? So I guess the only other thing I haven't covered on this is the mission engineering. I've got the EP1 that I'm using to control my delays and things like that over here. Okay, so that kind of concludes the top part of the board, how everything is connected, the signal flow, how I've got the effects loops and everything set up in the HX Stomp. But I want to show you guys the other side of this pedal board, which is kind of the spaghetti nightmare side of things, particularly to highlight how I have the power set up. To run a board like this, you need a ton of power, and so that's what I've got the VooDoo Lab Mondo set up for. So let's flip this thing over and take a look at it. All right, so here we are looking at the underside of the pedal board. It's a total nightmare over here. The thing that I really don't like is this household cord that I have, but it was kind of the only thing I could find to power the Yamaha Magicstomp, which you can only power it with this Yamaha power supply, the original power supply. I think they make aftermarket versions, but pretty much whatever you can find is this ridiculously bulky thing, you know. So I looked into some other ways to power the Magicstomp, but this was kind of the only way to get it on my board, was to use the courtesy outlet, this household cord. So that's what's powering that, as well as the wireless transmitter. So the other side of that household thing is like an Apple style USB thing, because Line 6 decided to make a wireless thing that Line 6 decided to make a wireless transmitter that uses USB as its power, which is the dumbest thing that's ever occurred in guitar electronics. Okay, so moving on, we've got the underside of the VooDoo Lab Mondo, and basically right here, those are just normal 9-volt outputs, but as you kind of move over here into the higher powered outlets, you'll notice I've got this green Y cable, okay? And why do I have a green Y cable? Well, I'm basically pulling power from two different things, flowing that into one, and then powering the Line 6 HX Stomp. So yet again, Line 6 is making their devices really difficult to power. And so that's how I had to power those. I have two of those, and I'm pretty sure this is one of a few power supplies. Maybe Strymon's got something that's high powered. Maybe Chalks makes something that is high powered, but this was like the highest power pedal power thing that I could find, and I needed that to power the two HX Stomps, which I'm doing there. Basically, and then I'm powering the Yamaha with that. What else? I have a normal 9-volt powering the Lone Wolf Audio, and that's it. Nothing else. Oh yeah, and then the tuner is powered with a normal 9 volts. So that's kind of how I have the underside rigged up, and you know, it's fairly clean. You know, I'm not OCD about that, as long as it's tucked away and I can get to everything and it's not snagging. I'm good to go with that. All right, so now that you've let me talk your ear off about this pedal board, I'm gonna play some guitar for you so you can kind of hear some of the different sounds I'm getting from this board. Hey, just wanted to say thank you so much for checking out my pedalboard video. I hope you learned something new, you found something interesting about it, maybe helpful. If you guys have any questions, leave a comment below, send me a message. I'm always down to help people problem solve with their pedal boards, and I will share as much advice as I possibly can. But thank you so much for checking out this video. I had a lot of fun making it, and I'll see you in the next one.